see in many of the live feeds are computer screens. And when the witness is on, you can see the states. You can see Mr. Roseberry's. So this is a problem for all of us. So they're having work product issues. We're having work product. We're having issues amongst them. So the problem that I see is this room was not designed for what's happening today. And our office, and as well the county attorney's office, was involved in the design for the South Court Tower, and this type of case is exactly what should be over there. That being said, there's additional protections that South Court Tower has. There's media rooms, so they can set up and they can adjust the audio. I'm told that they can't even turn off our microphone. You just reaffirmed that. These are problems that we have, and how do we actively represent our clients? There's a victim room, which I don't know the victim's position, but they would have their privacy. They could observe everything, and they have a place to go. So the South Court Tower is a far better place for this. That's the first issue.
Okay. Did you want me to try to address those points before you move on to the next one? I don't know if it's related or if it's completely different.
It's completely different.
Can I just add something really quick?
Go ahead.
Just as an example, Judge, I was just having a private conversation with what I thought was a private conversation with my client. I had my finger on this, but apparently if you're not careful enough or don't put it a certain way, the whole time it was green, and I didn't realize that till Jeff pointed that out to me. So it's just really frustrating because now we're having to look to make sure the light is on as I'm speaking to my client. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay. So just for the record, I did see when you pressed it, it turned red. So obviously that means it's off at that point. And those microphones will work the same way in the South Court Tower. So you still have to press them to shut them off. So I don't think there's any difference in terms of that issue.
My experience was different, Your Honor.
Okay.
But
and I'm happy to look into that, but my understanding is it's kind of rigged the same way in that you have to shut it off.
And my understanding is that this setup is different audio-wise than the South Court Tower is. And you have your media person in here who's probably a better person to answer those questions. My request is that that if the camera is going to interfere with the trial, then it shouldn't be here. So I know the court's made their ruling. I'm saying that it's changed now. We've had a day, it's changed. And the second thing I would ask is that the courts make a further inquiry. As you see, we have tons of exhibits, and it's getting really cramped, and it's hard to try a case in here. So I would ask the court to make an inquiry as to whether there's a possibility that we have something on the 5th floor where there's 2 counsel tables. I mean, even though we don't have dual juries, but one of those courtrooms would be far better suited. Even though the acoustics aren't as great, I'll make do to have a little bit of room, so I'm not backing into the bar, or Martha's not backing into me, and that we can try this case adequately. So I'd ask that the court make an inquiry into if we can move courtrooms.
And when you say 5th floor, you're talking about this building or South
Court Tower.
Okay.
South Court Tower, Your Honor. And I think that's what I was talking about with the victims' rooms and the media rooms, that they're available, and then the camera's out of the way. Everybody's out of the way. Everybody has their own space.
Okay. One thing I want to know about anything that was filmed yesterday, I've issued an order that's not to be used going forward for any type of feed. It should be taken down. So I'll work with our communications team to reach out to any of those outlets or agencies and make sure if it's posted somewhere. You mentioned YouTube, for example, that we have that portion taken down where any conversations during a break was recorded. And the press understands that, they can't do that going forward. They will unplug it during all the breaks. So that should take care of that particular issue. With respect to the microphones, again, I've been told you have to hold it down so it turns red and then it will not pick up your conversations. I believe it's the same in South Court Tower because it does have to be on so that when you're speaking into it, we can all hear you. So it doesn't completely shut off is my understanding. I'm happy to look into that, but that's how it's set up in here. And then with respect to the computers, from my perspective, I will order that no computer screens should be in the shot. So I don't know if that's possible for our press team. I'm seeing nodding heads, so okay, thank you. So it looks like that they can make sure that they are not getting anyone's screen in the shot. So that might be maybe just lifting up the camera a little bit higher in terms of its vantage point. So again, I appreciate your concerns. I do want to address all of them to the best of my ability. I don't know that we have courtrooms available. I made that inquiry originally. Obviously, everyone is using their courtrooms for trials, and there's a large number of trials going, given the number of capital trials that are taking various divisions offline for 7 months, basically, for lack of a better term. So I know people are very busy and using their courtrooms so that, because what we've been told is if you are assigned to a CCB judge, the intent is that the case should be tried here. And again, I'm happy to kind of try to make whatever accommodations we can, as I just did, directing to make sure there's no screens in the shot, making sure that everyone is muted while we're in session. When we're not in session, they're going to unplug, so there'll be absolutely no recording, and FTR is off as well when we're not in session. So I think all of those things can alleviate the things that you were discussing. And regarding just it being cramped in here, I do apologize for that, but we typically have 18 seats in the box in all trials, so that's normal. We've just added one at the end for 19. So right before this trial, we had a trial with 18 jurors. So that hasn't been an issue in the past.
And I appreciate the court recognizing that I have to make a record
Yes.
in these cases. I appreciate the court giving me that time. The other issues, kind of twofold from the media stuff and also into what happened in the courtroom. As the courts recognized yesterday, juror number 6 had his eyes closed in the court. I made the inquiry, or I let the court know, and the court, put her observations on that. In looking at some of the cases that I saw, I don't know that that's adequate, and I think that the way to do that, to kind of figure out what he was doing, is not to be presumptuous on our part to actually bring him in and question him. But I don't want to question him, I haven't talked to Ms. Otis, but
Sure.
if the court could just, hey, we noticed that you had your eyes closed during some parts of yesterday. Were you sleeping? Were you able to do whatever the court
Yes.
makes that inquiry? Because I don't want to alienate any juror by that. Now, the second part of that was on the comments and in the videos of the live feed, you can hear me talking to my team about juror number 6. And there's comments below from the public about juror number 6, making that. I didn't watch all the news yesterday. Frankly, I'm trying to get the media out of this trial. But if any juror or anybody from the family recognizes that, we're calling out juror number 6 for sleeping. That's a problem. And, with Ian's life in his hands, I don't want to upset any juror or make it so that, there's a problem. We need to find out if he's actually able to be a juror in this case, is what I'm trying to say, Judge.
Sure.
Without having to embarrass him or do anything else like that.
So question for you, would you like me to bring him in now, or would you like to wait till the end of the day and see how he does this afternoon? Because I think just to kind of keep things moving, and to your point, not unnecessarily draw attention to it, I think it's something maybe we could tackle this afternoon at the end. And if it is the case that it is an issue, then, we'll resolve it at that point. But I'm happy to ask those questions.
And it's hard because I need to preserve this. And if he sits and listens to the evidence today, I might make 2 motions. So my preference would be now, but
185, 186, 187, and 188.
Okay, so 183 through 188. Any objection from the defense?
No objection, Your Honor.
It's ordered admitting exhibits 183 through 188 into evidence. All right, and then remind me the name of your next witness.
Officer Kerner.
Ker-
It's K, let me give you the spelling.
Okay,
Koerner. And I'm always mispronouncing his last name, so
Okay.
I'll let him correct me.
all right. And then given the time today, are you thinking that would be the only witness for this afternoon, or?
We're not sure. We have Sergeant Williamson
Okay,
I think he's here. So depending on how long this takes, we
Okay.
could at least get started with
all
it.
right. And just as a reminder, I would like to reserve 5 or 10 minutes at the end so that we could chat with that juror. So maybe we could aim to end it.
And he can come back Monday if we need.
Okay,
So,
so I'm just thinking maybe we can aim to end around 4:20, just because that juror has to catch the jury shuttle and get back to the parking lot.
all right.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and bring the jury in. Please be seated. Let the record reflect we are back in the presence of the jury. And at this time, I will turn it over to the state. You may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And good afternoon, sir. We'll have you sworn in by the clerk. If you want to just stand there is fine.
Yeah, Timothy Kerner, last name is spelled Koerner.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And sir, I'll have you take a seat up here in the witness box, please. Thank you. And you may proceed.
Thank you. Officer, despite my best efforts, I am soft-spoken, so if you don't hear one of my questions, I will repeat it.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Could you please tell the jury your name?
Yeah, my name's Timothy Kerner. Last name is spelled Koerner.
And by whom are you employed, sir?
I'm employed by the city of Scottsdale as a detective with this crisis response team.
All right, sir. And how long have you been a police officer?
I've been a sworn officer now for 23 years.
I have some questions about 2015, but before I get there, can you tell us a little bit about what you do now?
What I do now is I'm on a specialty unit that deals with mental health crisis, so to speak. We go out and assist people that are dealing with some sort of mental health event, and we try to assist them in getting some sort of treatment.
All right, sir.
On and off, probably for an area of 10 to 12 years at that point, in that general area.
I want to ask you some questions about the 18th of February 2015. And in particular, draw your attention to around approximately 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Were you on duty?
I was.
And in a patrol car?
I was fully marked, full uniform.
All right, sir. And did you get did you receive information that led you to a particular residence at 8526 East Monterey Way?
I did.
And can you tell us what information you received which led you to go to that address?
Absolutely. The initial call was just a medical assist event. We often go out on fire or with the fire department for different medical events. Came out, or it sounded like it came out as a routine medical event. And then while I was responding, there was some information that made it seem like it might be a little bit more than just a routine medical event.
All right, sir. I know it's been a long time ago, but do you have a personal recollection of this incident?
I do.
All right. I'm going to ask you some questions about what happened once you arrived there, but are you able to describe for us the residents at that location, just generally the outside?
Yeah, just standard single family home. It was essentially on like a curved street. Monterey Way ended up curving around where it was not quite east-west, and it would be on what would best be described the north side of the roadway. Had a single drive, single front door.
All right, sir. Now, you mentioned that on occasion you respond with the Scottsdale Fire Department. When you arrived, was there a unit or units from the fire department already there?
Several units. There was at least one fire engine, a battalion chief, and then there was another unit. I can't remember exactly what, but I remember 3 units in total.
All right, sir. And when you arrived, do you recall approximately where you parked your vehicle?
Yeah, approximately from there, the best way of describing it, again, since the roadway kind of curved, the best way of describing it, my vehicle was parked what would be essentially just west of that, maybe 2 houses-ish.
All right, sir. So who did you first contact when you arrived?
As I got out and started approaching the residence, I was actually contacted by a fire department, the battalion chief. I don't remember his name. I don't think I ever got it. And he said something to the effect of, this is definitely going to be your scene. And that kind of clued me in that this was going to be potentially something more than just an average call.
All right, sir. Now, you recall approximately how long you remained at the scene?
In total, I want to say probably an hour or so. I can't remember exact time when I got there just after 4, and I want to say I left just after 5-ish. I don't have my official report in front of me.
All right, sir. And if you need it at any time, I have a copy that I can show you. Might refresh your recollection. I just wanted a general idea.
Yeah.
Is all. So maybe an hour.
Yeah, approximately.
During that hour, did you ever enter the residence?
I did not.
Once you had a conversation with this battalion chief, were you tasked with anything to do from a member of your department?
I was. As I approached the resident itself, I was contacted by Scottsdale Police Sergeant Williamson, my boss, and I was instructed to remain outside and to contact the reporting party for the event.
All righty. And did you do that?
I did.
This reporting party, were they male or female?
Male. First name is Alex, and last name I can't really pronounce. It was like European.
All righty. And where was he when you first had made contact with him?
He was seated in some landscaping right near the driveway, near a BMW, I believe it was, that I think ended up being his vehicle.
All righty. I have just a few photographs to show you. First of all, that are in evidence, 183. And are you able to see that photograph?
Yes,
Do you recognize that person?
I do.
Is that the Alex that you had contact with?
Correct. That was the reporting party for our event.
All righty. Now, Did you make an effort to talk to him?
I did.
What do you remember about his ability to communicate with you?
Communication was difficult. He was initially crying. He had tears, or what appeared to be crying. He had tears going down his face. He appeared to be shaking. As I spoke with him, he had normal voice at first, but as I had conversation with him, he appeared to kind of become more worked up, and he began almost what I could only describe as wailing, sobbing very profusely to the point where I couldn't understand him any longer.
Now, at some point, did you later learn that at least at that moment in time, it was a potential homicide scene?
I did.
So, in your training as a police officer and your experience as a police officer, when you were speaking with Alex, besides asking questions, trying to get answers, were you paying attention to his physical condition in any way?
I was. Like any other case, when we get there, until we rule somebody out, they're at least a potential suspect. So I was paying attention to different attributes. Once I became aware that it was a potential homicide, I started looking for any kind of injuries on Alex, anything else that might somehow tie him to the event.
And did you observe anything?
I did not. I didn't notice anything while he was sitting in a seated position. At one point, we ended up moving him. As he got up, I could see more of his body. I didn't see anything there. And later on, I got to see a lot more of his body, and I saw no injuries on him that would be consistent with any kind of struggle related to a potential homicide.
You mentioned that he was sitting in some landscaping when you first arrived,
Yes.
correct? It sounded like you asked him to get up.
I did. If I recall right, I was instructed that they were going to try and cordon off the house as a crime scene so that they would put up tape and basically move anybody that did not have to be within that scene outside the scene. So I was instructed to move Alex away from the house. I asked him if he would be willing to go with me to my vehicle. He agreed, and we stood him up. He needed a little bit of help getting up, but we walked him to my car when he agreed to go.
All righty. And during the time you were with him there at the residence, did you ask questions?
I did.
You described for us your initial observations of his emotional state that you observed, correct?
Correct.
Did that stop? Did it continue?
His emotional state would go kind of back and forth. As he was speaking, sometimes he'd be okay to be able to understand what he was speaking. There was other times when he became very emotional and went back to that kind of very wailing, very hard sobbing, to the point where I couldn't understand what he was speaking. He was clearly trying to say something, but I couldn't understand it until he was able to calm himself enough to speak again.
At some point while you were with him, were photographs taken of Alex?
He was photographed at the scene in my car, and then I believe he was photographed again at the station where we eventually moved him.
So when I showed you 183, let me put it back on the screen again. Do you think this is your patrol vehicle?
Yeah, that should be my patrol vehicle.
All right, sir. Putting 184 on the screen. Again, is this just a close-up of Alex?
Correct.
Who was taking maybe not their name, but who was taking the photographs?
That would be one of our crime scene specialists that specializes in photographs and other forensics, etc.
Showing you 185. What are we looking at here?
That would be Alex's hands. I believe the reason for that type of a shot would be to show if there was any kind of injuries or any marks on him that would be consistent with a struggle.
(186), sort of a duplicate, I guess, correct?
Correct. That looks like it concentrates on what would be his right hand more than the other.
(188).
That would be the palm, the inside palm of his hand.
All right, sir. And lastly, 188.
And I believe that would be the palm of the other hand
All right, sir.
for Alex.
I have some questions of you about the communication that you had with Alex at the scene. But before I do that, you mentioned that later you took him to Scottsdale Police Department.
I did.
What did you do when you arrived at Scottsdale PD?
When we arrived at Scottsdale PD, he was put into a conference room. He was not handcuffed or anything else. He was just there for questioning. He went voluntarily with me. I instructed him that we'd like to move him away from the scene itself, and he went voluntarily. I walked him into the station, set him down in the conference room, and then we were there to await the arrival of an investigating detective for the case.
Were you present when Alex was requested to provide his clothing?
I was.
And did he do so?
Absolutely, completely voluntarily. We asked him if he'd be willing to turn over his clothes just so that we could have that for evidence, and he began taking his clothes off right there before we even had any other garments for him to do it. Said something about do what you need to do.
Now let me take you back to the residence. You mentioned earlier that you recall having to perhaps help Alex up from the landscape to walk him away from the scene, correct?
Correct.
At any point when he was with you in or around your patrol vehicle, did he make an effort to get into the house?
There was a time once I got him to my patrol vehicle. He had asked about Allison and that he wanted to go see her. His request kind of got a little bit more, I wouldn't say forceful, but a little bit more direct. And at one time he stepped out of the back of my patrol car, and I was concerned that he might go into the scene and kind of contaminate potential evidence. So I stepped between him and the residents, and he seemed to calm down and get back into the car again.
Did you ask him questions about his relationship with his girlfriend?
I did.
And what I need to know is if, while you were asking these questions, did he describe his demeanor, his emotional state while you're asking these questions?
His demeanor during the questioning, especially in relation to his girlfriend, usually was calm when I could understand what he was speaking about, what he was actually saying. But as he would have conversations about her, his emotional state would become much more ramped up. He would become sobbing again. He'd start crying. Tears would go rolling down his face, and he'd get to the point where I couldn't understand him any longer. It would take him a bit of time to be able to control his breathing and calm down enough before I could understand what he was saying again. Then he'd speak about her again, and then seem to go back and forth between those states of emotion.
I'm not at this point asking you what he said, but did he provide you some background information about his relationship with Allison?
He did.
Um, did you ask him about who had keys to the residence?
I did.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that Allison was the sole owner, that only he himself had keys, and then Allison's family had keys to the residence. And as far as he knew, that was the only people that had any kind of keys to the residence.
At this point in time, did you know that, or had you been told that Alex was the one who called 911?
Yes.
Did he have his phone with him?
I do not recall. I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Do you have a recollection of perhaps him showing you or you looking at some text messages?
Yes. Now that you pointed that out, he did have his phone. At one point, I did see kind of a text trail from between him and Allison.
Okay. Why was that important to you or might be important to you?
I had asked, trying to figure out when he last spoke with Allison, when he last saw her, when he had any kind of communications with her. And part of that was he showed me a last text that he received from her.
All right. Do you recall the time of that last text?
If I recall right, it was the evening before we discovered, before he called, and it was somewhere around 8 p.m.
Did he tell you whether or not he had been attempting to contact her either by phone call or text?
He did. He had indicated that he routinely speaks with her. The Wednesday, the 18th, he had tried to send her texts during the day, have conversations with her, and there was no answer from her. So he was attempting contact.
Did he tell you anything about how it was he gained access to the house before calling 911?
Yes. He had indicated that he had knocked on the door or otherwise tried to contact her through the door. There was no answer, so he used a key to enter the residence.
Now, I know you've told us earlier that you did not enter the residence, correct?
Correct.
How close did you get to the front door? Do you remember?
I would say roughly 15, 20 feet probably is the closest I got.
While talking with Alex, did he describe to you an odor that he smelled once he went into the residence?
He did. He said as soon as he opened the door, he smelled it, and as he put it, a very strong odor of bleach. And I remember him saying that that didn't really initially kind of concern him because Allison was a very clean person.
While you were there, did you ever happen to notice the smell?
I did not that I recall.
Let me take you to the 19th of February, the next day.
Okay.
Were you asked to do anything in relationship to this investigation?
I was. I initially responded as, for lack of a better way of putting it, traffic control, scene control. I relieved an officer that was on a perimeter position. I stayed there for, I believe it was a couple of hours before I was relieved. And then I was away for about an hour before I responded back for area canvass with several other officers to try and contact neighbors or people that might have seen anything.
So in terms of scene security, What did that encompass?
The position that I had for scene security was just in my vehicle across the roadway, making sure no vehicle traffic went through, also to confront anybody that potentially could have walked in, but for the most part, if I recall, I didn't have anybody to try to do either.
And when you say that an hour later or so, after you were relieved from scene security, you canvassed the neighborhood, what did you do?
I linked up with another officer and we went door to door. We were assigned a kind of a grid area, for a lack of a better way of putting it, to knock on the doors of all those residents. It was early evening. I think the hope was that we could contact more people home after they got back from work.
Did you, in doing so, receive any information that you at least felt might be important to the investigation?
No, myself and that officer did not receive anything from those residents that we contacted that would be of even potential value that we felt.
Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
During your conversation there with Alex, did you have a discussion with him about an alarm system
I did.
in the home? Tell us about that.
That was in the same conversation as far as who had keys to the residence. I had asked him about the alarm system. He said that same situation, only Allison, her family, and himself had the actual alarm code.
Thank you, Detective. That's all the questions I have. Counsel may have some for you.
Sure.
And cross-examination by the defense.
Do you recall talking to the defense and the county attorneys back in 2021?
Vaguely, yes.
Sorry. Going to involve everybody in my questioning for you. We talked about your experience and what your job at that time was.
Correct.
And I want to thank you for the work you're doing. I think at that point you had just begun the mental health response team, I think, and I think you said at that point that was really the best job you had had.
Correct.
Do you still feel the same way?
I do.
Did what happened in this incident in any way lead you to that kind of work?
No, I've had that type of an inclination since very early in my career, when I saw a need for multiple people that I was dealing with on pretty much every call I was going out on.
I don't really need to ask you many questions. The state asked you most of the questions I had. I want to talk about two different areas. One thing you talked about was that Officer Williamson came up to you while you were at the scene.
Correct.
Okay, and what is his role as far as the Scottsdale Police Department
Currently or back then?
back then?
Back then, he was patrol sergeant. I believe he was my boss at that time. He ended up, there was some switching, but at that time, I believe he was my actual boss.
Okay, and so that, I think you mentioned that he was your boss and that he told you to stick with Alex.
Correct.
Okay. What was he wearing?
He should have been, and as I recall, he would be in full uniform. Just having sergeant stripes would be the difference in uniforms.
And you were in full uniform?
Correct.
And the fire department personnel that you talked about, did you happen to notice if any of those personnel went into the house?
I personally did not.
Okay. And how were they dressed?
The battalion chief that walked up to me would be his normal attire. It would be blue shirt, if I recall right, and BDU pants type thing.
How about the other fire officers that were there?
I don't recall seeing any other fire officers there. I know they were there, but I don't recall seeing anybody.
When I guess I may have misstated that. Fire personnel.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing any others. I know no others approached me. There was a time where we had Alex kind of evaled. He was having some difficulties kind of breathing, and one of his sobbing outbursts, I guess, would be the best concern. And we had him checked out to make sure that he was medically okay.
And was he?
He was.
So while you were there with him, Williamson came, and then did Officer Williamson or Sergeant Williamson, did he go in the house, do you know?
I believe so. I believe he and another officer went inside to clear the residence to make sure that there was no safety concerns and to do their at least initial clearing of the residence.
Was the front door of the residence open, if you recall?
I do not one way or another.
Okay. Do you know how they got into the residence? Did they go in the front door?
I would believe they went through the front door, but at that point I was more focused on Alex. I wasn't really paying attention on what they were doing.
Okay. Do you recall if someone, Sergeant or Detective Lockerbie came by?
I don't remember Lockerbie. I remember Lou Guy, Detective Lou Guy.
Okay. And who is he?
He is a detective. I believe he was with our violent crimes unit, and he was one of the investigating detectives in this incident, if I recall right.
Okay. And so you talked about the patrol group of people, at least you and Williamson, and then you also had the violent crimes group?
Correct. That would be the main investigative component of this case.
And you recall, did you say Lugi or
Lou Guy.
Lou Guy, okay. Who else from that unit was there?
Wouldn't be able to answer that question. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Let's see. And I think you talked about someone from coming up and taking photographs?
Correct.
Okay, and what group of people would that be from?
That would be from our, what we call CSS, Crime Scene Specialist Unit.
Okay. So while you're at the scene, several people came up. You were observing to see if you saw any injuries on Alex that would be consistent with what you understood had happened in the house.
Correct.
And then someone came up and took photographs.
Correct.
Okay. And then you took him to the scene. I took him to the police department.
Yes.
He was at the
Yes.
scene, okay.
Absolutely.
And then at the police department, you or someone asked for his clothing.
Correct.
And then, do you recall if you saw any medical person at the police department?
At the station itself, no, there was no medical personnel there.
Do you recall a nurse looking him over?
I do not recall that.
Okay. Okay. And he was given a jump seat at that point?
He was given what?
Once Alex gave you his clothing, he was given a jumpsuit?
Correct.
Okay, and then someone came and took him home?
That I wouldn't know. I was relieved before he left that station.
Okay. And you talked about Alex showing you text messages
He did.
at the scene.
Correct.
Did you take his phone?
I did not.
Okay. That's one of the areas that I want to talk about. I want to talk to you about another area, which is something that Vince didn't talk to you about.
Sure.
When you were talking to us back in 2021, you were kind of talking about your experience working in that neighborhood. At that point, I have 20 years, but I think you said today it was 10 or 12 as of 2015 at least.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay, so that would be 6 years more, so we're close to 20. Okay. We talked about the alleyways that were in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
And some of us have lived in neighborhoods that have alleyways, or people haven't. That's an older neighborhood, right?
Correct.
Okay, and it's a neighborhood that at that point was in transition.
Transition how?
People buying homes, fixing them up for resale.
Yeah, that's pretty much all at all times. But yeah, there's
Okay.
definitely homes that were for sale in that area.
And older people that had lived in those homes, maybe that were at a different financial level, that were selling them to more prominent people that were moving into Scottsdale.
I would assume so. I don't know so, but I would assume so.
Okay, so when we talk about alleys, can you talk about what you mean by that?
It's an alleyway, guessing for dimensions, maybe 15 feet across. It's designed for a automated garbage truck to go through. At that time, I believe they had large black trash cans that were every maybe 3 houses or so that people could put their trash into, and the trash trucks would go by and collect them.
Did you ever have a time that you can recall being in the alleyway behind Allison's house?
I believe that I walked through the alleyway when we were going to do the area canvas, just so I could get an idea of, and not past Allison's. I think I walked into it just at the beginning of it, so I had an idea of what I could see, because I wasn't familiar with that alleyway itself.
So you're talking about an alleyway. Is that like a secondary street system that goes throughout the neighborhood for like service vehicles and dump trucks?
It's not designed as a normal throughway, but utility vehicles, et cetera, city vehicles would use that for whatever tasks they have to complete.
Okay. And in your experience working in that area, is that an area that crimes would take place in?
Sometimes you'd have, for example, sometimes you'd have transients that might be in the back, they're using drugs, et cetera. I've definitely caught that type of an element in alleyways, not necessarily right at Allison's, but in that general area.
And do people sometimes ride bikes through those routes?
Absolutely.
Okay. And can you go from block to block in the alleyway?
Depends on the alleyway. I don't know where hers filed out specifically, but it has to have basically a starting and an end point. So I would assume it goes out at some point somewhere else.
Okay. So you would have like, say a block and there would be a matrix of alleyways behind the houses in that block?
Correct.
And then you might have another block that has the same system?
Correct.
And then you could go from block to block, but you'd have to cross some kind of street.
In theory, yes.
In theory, right?
Yes.
And those alleyways kind of meander at different turns and
Yeah,
twists.
every residence would have an alleyway, or at least for the most part, every residence there would have an alleyway of some sort.
And people in that area would kind of have a sense of what routes to take to get where within the alleyway.
If they're familiar with the area, that I would say yes. I don't know how familiar they would be with that area.
Assuming that someone has lived there a few years.
I think that's a fair assumption.
Okay, and they may take that alleyway to get, say, from their backyard to someone else in the neighborhood's backyard.
Potentially.
And do people sometimes walk their dogs in the alleyways?
I don't know that I've ever seen that. I can't say that they wouldn't, but I don't think I've ever seen that.
Okay, thank you, good to know. Do sometimes, if you're, say you have someone that you're looking for that's committed a crime, does sometimes they hide in the alleyways?
Sure.
Okay, and like someone who's burglarizing in a home, would they use the alleyway to get to the backyard of a home?
Potentially.
Okay. In Allison's, as far as Allison's alleyway, there were officers that were assigned to guard the alleyway after this occurred. Is that right?
I don't know. I would assume so, but I don't know so.
This is, maybe you've already answered that because this question, but you told me you didn't actually go behind Allison's house.
Correct.
In some of the houses that you walked behind, could you look over the fence into the backyard from the alleyway?
Again, not Allison's neighborhood, but in other neighborhoods, I've seen where you could see into different backyards.
Okay, so in those circumstances where you could see what was the height of the fence approximately?
Each residence is different. I've seen them where they're probably 8 feet, and I've seen others that are 5 feet. So it just varies on the different residents and how they constructed their fence.
Okay. Getting close here. Let's see. Did you have any discussions with the fire personnel at the scene as to why they, let me back up a little bit. It sounded like the fire personnel were at the scene when you got there.
Correct.
Right. And I think when we talked before, you got there pretty quickly.
Yeah, I believe if I recall the time frames right, I want to say that I got there within like 3 minutes of them pronouncing Allison.
Okay. So did you hear when you say pronouncing, did you hear that over the radio?
I don't specifically recall. I want to say that I just heard that or saw it on our computers. It would have a time stamp for when it was officially occurring.
Did any of the fire personnel talk to you about what they had been doing before they arrived at Allison's house?
No.
Okay. Just looking at my questions here.
Sure.
I have some questions on the census. So did you say that you went to about 30 homes on the 19th?
30-ish, yeah,
Okay.
if I recall right, and if my supplement was right.
Okay. So how did that work?
Simply went door to door. We walked up the driveway, found the front door, knocked on the door. Somebody answered, great. If not, we went on to the next one.
So if someone answered, what happened next?
Then we just asked him, we started out with generalized questions and we never went into specifics, but we just asked him if they were in the area or at home in the time frame of when we believe the incident to have occurred originally.
Okay. And you can't recall anything specific that you were told that alerted you to that maybe this was good information that could be used in that investigation?
Yeah, I think if I remember anything comments wise from the residents that we contacted that would be related to it, they'd be curious about the presence of police in the area,
Right.
or maybe they heard something on the news or something like that. It was very generalized if there was any comments about the incident at all.
So if we can just talk a minute about, things that you might have, would have been of interest to you. Would it have been an interest to you if someone heard something about the time that the death occurred?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Would it be, are you looking for people that might have witnesses something?
Sure, and that was one of the questions is we asked them if they saw anything suspicious, if they were in that area, maybe driving by, etc. If they had any information that would be kind of odd, out of place for that area, and we got nothing from that.
Were you also, was it on your mind that perhaps you might find a suspect in that process?
Potentially, sure.
So it wasn't ruled out that someone in the neighborhood might have been involved?
I was not told that the neighborhood was clear per se, nor was I told that there was a potential suspect in the area. It was just going to try and gain information.
Okay. Did the presence of the alleyways make any difference in your analysis of reasons to talk to neighbors?
No, we contacted all the houses regardless of where the alleyways were or were not.
Did you take any notes from those conversations?
No, I would have taken notes if there were anything of significance that any of the residents would have said. I would have identified them, got contact information, and then put down what they would have said.
So you didn't collect any DNA at that point from
Correct.
anyone there? Okay. And you were just doing a cursory, as fast as possible, visit to see if you were alerted to something?
We would take as much time as we had if there was any information that came out.
Okay.
It wasn't as fast as possible, but yes, we were going from house to house depending on what we got.
Okay. So would you say that it was all hands on deck at that point, at least as of the 19th?
It was, if it wasn't all hands, it was pretty close to it. There was a significant number of assets contributed to that.
Can you talk about those? What
I
can you
don't
recall?
have the totals. I know that we had quite a few patrol units. I don't know the numbers or otherwise. And patrol is usually out taking calls for service. So for us to do that, it was significant.
Was there a command vehicle there?
I do not recall seeing one.
Okay. And you know what I mean by, I may
Correct.
be using the wrong word. What is a command vehicle?
Command vehicle, for lack of a better way of putting it, is an RV that's, ours is painted very similar to what you'd see a marked patrol vehicle. And then inside they have extra equipment, assets, places that detectives can go to kind of gather information, and command staff can kind of figure out what they're going to do for their next area of responsibility.
Okay. While you're at the scene on February 18th, and I understand you weren't there long because you transported Alex, did you see anyone put on protective clothing when they entered the house?
No, I don't recall seeing anybody enter the house one way or another.
Okay. Just a moment.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And any redirect by the state?
Give me just a moment.
Sure.
Excuse me. One question,
Sure.
maybe two. You stated that you don't recall what Sergeant Williamson was wearing. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you assume he was in uniform.
He should have been. There's no way that he would not have been. That would have been the standard uniform like me, navy blue, top and bottom. And the only difference would have been is that he would have had sergeant stripes on his sleeve.
And in your years as a patrol officer, had you been asked to respond to scenes where you needed to clear a residence?
Absolutely.
And when I use that term clear, what does that mean?
Clear is usually meant just that you go inside and you want to make sure that there's no victims in immediate need of care, and that's all throughout the residence. It's also looking for suspects that may or may not still be inside the residence.
And before you enter to clear the residence, do you take the time to put on protective clothing?
In a scene like this, if it was available, if time would allow, sure, I would do that. If time would not be allowed, if there was some sort of exigent circumstance where I needed to clear the residence a little bit quicker, I probably would not have.
Okay. When you're clearing a residence, what's your primary concern?
Primary concern is any victims that are in need of immediate care, trying to get them out of the residence. It's also looking for suspects that may be inside to make sure that the scene is safe for not just any potential victims, but also for ourselves as well.
All right. That's all I have here.
Okay. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if anyone has a question for this witness, we would collect it at this time. And seeing none, may this witness be excused, subject to recall.
Yes.
You may step down, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And would you like to approach?
Sure.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. And we'll have you come forward. And if you would come up here in front of my clerk, she will swear you in.
So can you state and spell your name for the record?
Sure, Scott Williamson, W-I-L-L-I-A-M-S-O-N.
Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
And I'll have you take a seat up here in the witness box. Thank you. And you may proceed.
Thank you. Your Honor, before I do, exhibits 251 and 252, which are diagrams that were prepared in the beginning of this investigation of the residents. I've asked counsel, I'm going to move the introduction, but what I want to make clear for the record is there is a legend on here that, I would avow that we will connect up later. This officer would not necessarily be able to identify the items in the legend, but it would assist, I think, in describing for the jury what it is he did when he entered the residence.
Any objection? No. And I'm sorry, tell me the exhibit number again.
It's 251, 252.
Right. It's ordered by stipulation of the parties admitting 251 and 252 into evidence.
Could you tell us your name, please?
Sure, Scott Williamson,
And by whom are you employed, sir?
with the City of Scottsdale, the Scottsdale Police Department.
And how long have you been a police officer in the city of Scottsdale?
Almost 24 years.
And what is your current assignment?
I am the sergeant for the crisis response team.
I want to take you back to what do your duties entail at this time?
At this time, we deal with a lot of behavioral mental health calls for service within the city that include involuntary committals, transporting to mental health facilities.
All right, sir. I want to take you back to 2015 in February,
Okay.
specifically the 18th of February, 2015. What were your duties then?
I was a patrol sergeant on what we call C shift, which is typically 11 in the morning till 9 at night.
All right, and what area of the city were you in charge of?
Pretty much from McKellips to McDonald. I had the South District. We call it District 1.
And on this particular date, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, was there a squad of officers assigned to you?
Yes, there were.
How many were on that squad?
On that day, I don't know. Typically, a squad consists of between probably 5 and 7 officers.
All righty. So around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, approximately,
Yeah.
Were you in a patrol unit?
I was, but I was at having coffee.
All righty. And did you receive a call for service?
I did.
And what do you recall about that?
I didn't receive the call for service. The call for service was aired. They were asking for units to respond to what initially came out as a medical at the residence on Monterey.
All righty. And would that be 8526 East Monterey Way?
Correct.
So I don't know that it's that important. So how did you receive that information?
Typically what happens is dispatch would air the call. So over my portable radio, I heard that there was a call for service at that residence. That male had stated that someone was not breathing, and fire was also en route to that scene.
All righty. How long did it take you to arrive?
Within a matter of 5 minutes.
And on the way, did you receive any additional information?
Not that I recall.
At some point, did you become aware that the young lady whose house this was was dead.
Yes,
And how did you receive that information?
over the radio.
So you knew that when you got there, correct? When you arrived, if I understood you correctly, well, let me ask you, was fire already there?
Correct. There were several firefighters outside the front door.
And what about patrol officers? Do you remember if any other officers were there, or were you the first?
I believe I was the first and arrived probably about the same time as Officer Kerner.
And so when you arrived, what did you do?
Noticed that on the front lawn there were some firefighters with a white male that seemed distraught. As I walked up to the door, I could immediately smell an odor of bleach or chlorine.
And by the door, you mean the front door to the
Front door
house?
of the residence, correct?
Was the front door open?
Yes, it was.
Did you have any communication with the individual that fire was working with?
I did not. I had Officer Kerner stay with him to get his statement and be with the firefighters as well.
All right. And did you speak with the firefighters before you went into the house?
I did. A few of them, one of them had told me that 4 of them had gone in. They had placed leads on the victim and confirmed that she was deceased.
Okay. So once you learned that information, did you, was it up to you to decide what to do from that point on? With the residents, I mean.
Yes.
Okay. So what did you decide to do?
My primary role as a patrol sergeant would have been to secure the residence to make sure there were no other victims or suspects inside the house.
Okay. And how did you go about doing that?
Initially, another officer had showed up at that point, Officer Powell. He met me at the front door. We stepped within the front door, and then we methodically moved from the south side of I moved to the south side of the residence, clearing the kitchen and family room and the door to the south.
Let me take you back to your years, as an officer, training experience.
Sure.
When you go into a residence like this to clear for potential victims or suspects, are you cognizant of potentially interfering or contaminating or somehow compromising physical evidence that's in the residence?
Yes, with a situation like this, it was obvious that this was a crime scene and that limiting the number of bodies that were in that house and to disturb anything that was in there was the priority.
Okay. How are you dressed?
In a patrol uniform.
Similar to what you have on today?
Correct.
And when had you come on duty?
That day would have been about 11 in the morning.
Alrighty. And the day before, do you recall what your shift would have been?
I'd have to know what day the event happened on. Typically, that shift is Tuesday through Friday.
So February the 18th is the day you responded.
Right.
I actually, unfortunately, don't recall the day of the week that was. Let's assume it was a Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm not under oath, but let's just assume that it was a Wednesday. So the Tuesday before, would you have been on duty?
I would have.
And what time would your shift have ended?
9 o'clock at night, 9 p.m.
All righty. When you go home, do you take a shower, take a bath?
Yeah, typically.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your uniform?
Our uniforms are typically dry cleaned.
Okay. Do you know the defendant in this case?
I do not.
You ever had any contact with him to your knowledge?
No, sir.
All right. So you make a plan to go in. You said it was obvious, at least I think this was your words, it appeared to be a homicide scene once you entered the door, correct?
Correct.
And describe for us why you came to that conclusion.
I didn't use the word homicide, but it was a crime. It was a crime scene.
Crime scene.
Correct.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Walking in there, it was obvious with the smears that were on the ground and the blood. There were some what appeared to be a substance that looked like blood and cleaning supplies smeared onto the ground, and the overwhelming smell of the bleach that was in there.
When you entered the door, where did you go within the residence?
Initially, when we walked in the door, we could see the victim to the left of us, which was to the north of the house in the hallway. My immediate focus was to the south of the home. The kitchen was wide open, so it was easier to clear any threats that were there visually, so I didn't have to go too far into the kitchen dining room area.
How close to the young lady's body did you get?
Probably within 3 feet.
All righty. What did you observe about her?
That she was fully undressed except for a piece of cloth over her face, lying naked in the hallway with her head pointing southeast.
And I thank you. I neglected to ask you this. This residence, did the front door basically face the south, to the south?
To the west.
Okay. Let me put exhibit 251, oops, on the screen. Are you able to see that?
I am, sir.
So let me, you see here where it says living room?
Yes, sir.
And let's assume this is a doorway.
Yes, sir.
Would that be where you entered?
Correct.
All right. On that particular diagram, would you agree with me that north is to the top?
Correct.
All righty. So you entered the door. You recall anything about what you observed about the living room area?
I believe I noticed some droplets of blood that were in that area.
Okay. And then you saw the victim's body in the hallway.
Correct.
And at that point, are you by yourself?
At that point, I believe Officer Powell was with me,
Okay. Where's your gun?
out of my holster and at the low ready, which means
And why was that?
at this point, the house hasn't been cleared for any other threats or victims.
So what if anything, did Officer Powell do?
At that point, he covered the north side, north of the victim's body, while I walked across to the door that was to the south, checking the kitchen.
Okay. So let me scoot this up a little bit here. You see where it says kitchen?
Yes, sir.
And there is a doorway here, it appears.
Yes, sir.
Did you go to that door?
I did.
And what do you remember? Was it open, closed, locked, unlocked?
It was locked. There were 2 locks on it. Both of them were locked. I unlocked them, looked out the door.
All righty. Did you go into the garage, do you recall?
Not at that point.
All righty. Now, was Officer Powell, did he stay at the door, to your knowledge?
He did. His focus was the north hallway to make sure that nothing came in behind me while I was searching the south.
We've had some testimony that there was an Arcadia door in this kitchen dining room area that led into the backyard. Did you go out of that door at all?
I did not.
So once that you encountered the locked door, you unlocked it, correct?
I did,
There were 2 locks.
correct.
What did you do next?
I had trouble relocking them. Typically, I would leave it the way that I had found it. But I had trouble locking it. I don't recall why, but I left it unlocked and then went back to meet with Officer Powell.
And was he still near the doorway?
Correct.
What do the 2 of you do then?
At that point, I believe Officer Van Wielde had arrived on scene, and the 3 of us started to move north through the home.
So north through the hallway where Allison's body was found, correct?
Yes, sir.
And describe how the 3 of you, first of all, what efforts did you make to avoid any of the physical evidence that you observed?
Objection leading.
If you could rephrase, please.
As you are, the 3 of you are proceeding through the hallway, are you being cognizant of anything?
Yes.
What?
The fact that there was evidence everywhere and that we didn't want to disturb it.
Okay. And so describe how you went about clearing the rest of the residence.
We stayed predominantly to the west on the left side of the hallway, and then cleared the bedrooms clockwise.
Did you enter yourself a particular bedroom?
I don't recall whether I entered the guest bedrooms or the office. I am for sure certain that I entered the master bedroom.
All righty. Which is up here on the upper right-hand corner, correct? Your Honor, we have a stipulation to the introduction of Exhibit 249.
And that's correct. No objection?
Objection.
It's ordered admitting Exhibit 249 into evidence.
You mentioned you went into you specifically recall going into the master bedroom. Did you also go into the master bathroom?
I did.
And did you discover there was a doorway in that bathroom?
I did.
And where did it lead?
To the backyard.
Did you open that door?
I did. I unlocked it and opened it.
So it was locked when you arrived, correct? Did you enter into the backyard?
I did.
What did you do, if anything, in the backyard?
We visually cleared the backyard to make sure that there were no other victims or suspects in the backyard by moving through the backyard to the south.
And did you venture into the alleyway yourself?
I did not.
Are both the other officers with you in the backyard?
They are.
Did you observe where they went?
Up the back alleyway.
Okay. Where did you go?
I returned to the master bathroom to close the door and secure it the way that I had found it and to exit through the front door.
While you were in the backyard, did you happen to look into the swimming pool?
I did.
Did you see anything that caught your attention?
Yeah, there seemed to be a small mat of some sort or a piece of carpet that was in the north side of the pool.
Showing you Exhibit 249. Do you see the doorway that you entered into the backyard?
I do.
Is that this door here where I'm pointing?
Correct, with the bag on it.
All right. And again, you had to unlock it when you went out.
Correct.
And then you locked it again when you came back in.
Correct.
showing you Exhibit 50, which is already in evidence. Do you have a recollection of what we are looking at here?
The carport,
Is this off of the back porch?
it is.
Do you see the gate there?
I do.
Do you recall whether or not you entered the area where the car seems to be located?
Yes.
And what did you do while you were in there?
Walked a 360 around the vehicle and then came back out just to look inside the vehicle to see if there was anything or anyone inside.
And did you enter the car itself?
No,
You see this door here?
I do.
Do you recognize that doorway?
I do. That's the one that leads from the laundry room into the kitchen in the main house.
After you came back into the residence, did you go back out the front door?
I did.
And what did you do next?
At that point, I had officers start setting up crime scene tape, the red tape for the inner perimeter, and then yellow tape to block off the streets.
Okay, what about the alleyway?
I don't specifically remember doing it or ordering someone to do it, but it would have been.
I think I asked you this already, but just in case I didn't. When you entered the garage, you said you looked into the car, correct? You didn't enter it, is that right?
Correct.
You didn't touch it.
No, sir.
While you were in the home, inside the residence, other than the doors that you unlocked, and then tried to either closed up again and relock the locks, did you touch anything?
No, sir.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Would you like to approach? this weekend. And please remember that admonition as you go home for the weekend. Please do not discuss the case with anyone. Do not do any research